Greetings, family, friends. um, this live, first of all, my name is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as Daughter of the Fates. This is a kind of impromptu um, live that I'm doing because I have a lot going on. I'm getting ready to make yet another trip across the country. And so I just figured I'd take this time to kind of like clear my fumble with my hair. Um, Figured I'd take the time to have a discussion so that people are kind of made aware of what's going on and what's going to be happening over this next period. Um, so I am going to be leaving California to drive to Alabama to to support my family in a period that is extremely sensitive and and urgent, and so, and so I'm going home for some time, and this going home, I really feel like it is a pivotal period, um, as those are coming up more and more for all of us, like these junctions where we know something huge is about to happen. And so I've been sitting here at the house all day just trying to kind of wrap my mind around everything that's about to happen. I'm about to leave my home for 2 months to go take care of my mother, who has gotten a diagnosis that is serious, and I know what comes with that, right? So for those of you who do know and those of you who don't know, I am a healing practitioner with a background in Chinese medicine and alternative medicine. And so this has been my primary area of work for a long time. And in that work, I have seen so many things, good and bad. I have heard so many stories, good and bad. I have um, received so many interventions on behalf of others, and that for anybody that does any kind of healing work, and I say that with the broadest spectrum in mind: healers and musicians and artists and psychologists and social workers and activists. Like, we're all healers, right? And so what that means, and like how heavy that weight of responsibility can be, how to keep a healthy perspective, how to establish a healthy barrier of protection that allows you to be empathetic without taking on the suffering of others, right? Without taking that into your body, without taking that into your house. It's quite a different thing. And sometimes it's easy to do, and sometimes it's not. The stories that people have, the trauma that people have endured, the life as we know it in this society, as burdensome as it can be, it's a lot for people to come into our spaces and to have enough confidence in us to unburden themselves with their troubles, and us being able to establish healthy, energetic boundaries that our empathy doesn't become our suffering. And so I've been thinking about this for a lot because I've been planning this trek across country for a week now, a little over a week, and it's different when it is family. It is different as a healer when it is family, right? I remember when I was in massage therapy school, the first of several professors that I had throughout my 9.5 years in medical school told me, this is going to sound harsh, but in practice as a healer, never treat your family and especially your parents. And I was like, That's a terrible thing to say. Of course, I'm going to treat my parents. Of course, I'm going to treat my family. Like, what the hell did I go to school for? Right. And so for a long time, that did not sit right with me. But I understood. She always said, find a therapist, find a healer, find someone that you trust to refer your family to refer your parents to. And after years of doing this, many years of doing this, many years of putting my hands on people, many years of listening to people as their default therapist, you know what I'm saying? After years of hearing people's stories and showing up for people as a healer, I understand the essence of what this professor was saying, that it is different. The energy, the requirement, the demand, the expectation of us is different when we are dealing with family. One, especially with your parents. One, because they know your shit. They know your dirt. They know all your skeletons. They know all the crummy shit you did before you, quote, got conscious or grew up or got right or whatever. And so it is hard for them to separate that knowing of your past self from this person that is supposed to be showing up in space to help. That's one. Two is the concept of power dynamics. Now, if you are a healer of any kind in the medical field, psychology, sociology, any massage therapist, any quality of healing work, then you know that there is a heavy discussion around the question of power dynamics and the responsibility that comes with that as practitioners. So much so that there are laws around exploiting these power dynamics, right? You as a healer, you as a therapist have acquired a certain level of information and education that has acquired you a certain level or ability to be able to practice with confidence and show up for others. And with that comes power. With those credentials, with that education, with that diploma, with that license, when a person walks into your practice and they see these things posted on the walls, they automatically concede their own personal power. They automatically see these things and they say, okay, this person is who they say they are and can do for me what they say they can do for me. And so every individual that comes to us as healers yields with confidence their power to us. That's the power dynamic. There is a perception of our power in that space that we have through this education and through these credentials, something that they don't have. And so in exchange for currency, they give to us their money, their blood, sweat, and tears, their time, and they concede their power because they have a level of confidence that we can do something for them that they are incapable of doing for themselves. That's the power dynamic. And it's a big thing. It's serious and it's bound by law and it can get you fired. It can get you unable to practice. So it's a serious thing. But the other aspect of power dynamic that we learn in medical school is those naturally established power dynamics. Those naturally established power dynamics are those that are established when we are born. The dynamic between our parents and ourselves, the dynamic between our elders and ourselves. There is a concession that we should make in spaces with our parents and with elders of the community and whatever, that there's a concession that we should make because we as young people recognize that there is something that they know that we don't. There is experience that they have that we don't, so on and so on. So what does this mean for a practitioner who has a certain level of education and experience and background and exposure to different types of situations to show up for a parent? Who, even at 47 years old, the power dynamic yields to my mother. She's my mama. She gave birth to me. I sat in her body. She protected me and covered me throughout my entire life. Today, she still shows up if I am in trouble, right? So there is a natural concession that I make because she is my mother. The power dynamic is in her favor. However, in this dynamic where I have to, as a doctor, show up for my mother, one, two, being her daughter and really internalizing the urgency of this diagnosis that she's been given on the one hand, that's my right brain, right? And on my left brain, being the doctor saying, okay, how can I enter into this space, not um, not falling victim to what would be a naturally emotional response to this situation with my mother, and be able to show up in this space as her assistant practitioner, because she has opted for conventional, a conventional course of action for this diagnosis that she has. How can I support that? How can I allow her to have sovereignty, to have bodily autonomy in this walk that is hers, show up and support that, right? While establishing healthy, energetic boundaries that do not allow me to succumb to what otherwise would be a natural emotional response to such a serious diagnosis. You understand what I'm saying? How can I be a cheerleader for my mother while treating her? How can I protect my mother's space while grieving family members, scared family members, fearful family members are hoarding around, exacerbating her natural response to this diagnosis, which it would be fear and uncertainty and internalizing your mortality and all of that shit. How do I do all of these things? How do I play the cheerleader? How do I show up as an objective facilitator of a healing process? How do I make sure that I am covered in a way that does not make me seem detached? How can I be empathetic while still protecting my sanity and my safety and my sovereignty in space where people are naturally fearful and grieving and uncertain? So that's what I'm preparing for in this last week and a half in going home to be with my family for this period of time. So that's one thing. It is fitting that this is happening on the eve of a new moon. A new moon in Pisces, as a matter of fact. This is my number 2 year, right? So this being my number 2 year, for those that are into numerology, those who are into astrology, is about going home. Go figure. Your number 2 year is about returning to the source, about returning home, about showing up for family, about showing up for children and for parents, about making sure that your home is in order before you go out and attempt to create order for the world or for the greater whole. Y'all all know me. I call myself a sovereign world visionary. I am always in this place where I am attempting in my daily activity and action to establish the new world, right? To establish a world that I believe can exist in our lifetime. And in order to do this work, this service work for the greater whole, your number 2 year says, baby, make sure your home is in order. Make sure your home is in order, not your personal space where you live and go to sleep. Your home is your blood. Your home is your family. Your home is that which has created your foundation, right? Good, bad, and ugly. All of these things have informed us about what life is supposed to be moving forward. Our first 20 years are our foundational years, no matter what happened in those years. Those 20 years are our foundational years. So this is the other thing that I've been, meditating on, if you will, as I prepare to make this trip. And my initial instinct, because of the urgency that everybody is experiencing, was to jump on a plane and just try to ship the things that I need to take care of my mom. But I was like, no, I have had extraordinary epiphanies and breakthroughs, blessings beyond imagining when I am on the open road. I was like, okay, let me get myself in an automobile, pack the things that I need, and go on another epic adventure across the country. So I will be driving, and I will be in meditation while I am driving, and I will be, answering these questions that I've just posed to you about what is going to be the best possible and the most effective way that I can show up for my family, not just my mother, though she is paramount, she is the center, she is the most important, but how can I show up for the rest of my family in a way that is beneficial to them all, that is healing to them all, right? That when I return to my space, I can do so with all the confidence that my best self was the self that came home, um, that the needs of my mother were at the center of why I'm going and how I need to show up, right? And whatever, that's the other thing, is service does not mean self-sacrifice. I want y'all to hear that, because that's what we've been taught. Service does not mean self-sacrifice. Service to others, showing up for others, does not mean ever self-sacrifice. And so when I when I go to serve my mother, I can only benefit. I can only be blessed when my mother is blessed, when my mother is served, when my mother is cared for. It can only benefit me, right? And so that's what I mean about why it's important to establish healthy, energetic boundaries and borders so that you can show up in the best possible way without suffering as a consequence, right? So that's one thing. And those are some of the big things I've been thinking about. I've been thinking about all of this happening when it has, right after what began as an extraordinary new year. I've launched the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. We have followers. We have people that are invested in this future that we want to create, and invested in every possible way, right? Can see clearly our contribution in real time to the new age, to the new world, right? And so this is a part of the process. Not only are we on the eve of this really beautiful, powerful new moon on Monday, but it is all within the context of the fact that we are in this Pluto returns, and that Pluto is about to transition into Aquarius in just a few short weeks. And are we ready? Are we really ready? Are we really doing the quality and gravity of work that is necessary to transition into these periods with confidence, with certainty, with grace, with an innate knowing that this is our time? Baby, I have all confidence. I watch the news, I make sure that I'm up on the latest events happening in the world, but I do not internalize that madness. I do not, because I know what I am witnessing is the crisis of the end. What I am witnessing is the urgency of those who are losing a grip on power that they have held hostage for a long, long time. And they see the end. They see the end. And so I don't internalize that. I take in information with discernment. I take in this information, one, always guided by the certainty that this time is ours. And then I dissect, analyze, and make use of the information that I am taking in on any given day, especially where news and current affairs and stuff like that is concerned. It informs me without impacting my life. And I get it. I just want you to be able to see, because the urgency is real. I get it. But the desperation that we are experiencing is a desperation of finality. It is a desperation of the writing on the wall. It is a fulfillment of prophecy that we do not remember. You understand? The urgency that we are experiencing, baby, we should be rejoicing in. I know that's hard to do when our entire lifetime has been either directly or indirectly impacted by narratives of the end of the world and the last days and Armageddon and the apocalypse and revelations and third world wars and all of this shit that has been meant to prime us to accept, not only accept, but be emotionally invested in rescuing an end that has to come. An end that is inevitable, baby, cannot be stopped. That end, those of us who have been the recipients of oppression and despair and longing and woefulness and fearfulness, tears and grief as our norm in life, work as the determining, labor as the determining of our deserving of life, of our deserving of liberty, of our deserving of sovereignty. This end we should not only welcome, honey, but rejoice in. It is going to be work for us to relinquish a belief in this shit that has been spoon-fed to us since the beginning. This, the end of days, the, doomsday preppers, because the end is coming, when the shit hits the fan, however you want to dress it up. This is a narrative spoon-fed to us so that it could wield our emotional attachment to that which has prolonged our suffering, to get us energetically invested in preserving a little bit longer the system that we've grown accustomed to. We've grown accustomed to oppression. We've come to expect despair. We have accepted that our foundation for life is misery, and that happiness and joy and ecstasy are those few moments that happen along this path of suffering and misery. That day is done, baby. It's over. It is over. So the desperation is likened to a mortally wounded beast. It knows its time has come. And when it approaches that final stage of mortality is when it becomes its most violent. It becomes its most desperate in trying to hold on to its last breath of life. This is what we're witnessing. And if we can go into every situation, if we can analyze every aspect of media that we come into contact with, first with the confidence of certainty that our ancestors, that our parents have done the work to secure the future for us, that the heavens and the planets and our Mother Earth has done the work to ensure an end to the suffering, an end to this phase, an end to this stage, then we can have shrouded around us the protection that we have not experienced since we were enveloped in our mother's womb, her protective primordial water, you see. And we feared nothing there. We didn't. We knew without knowing we were secure. If we can walk into the world with that, if we can walk into the world with that kind of confidence, we can change the future right this minute, right now. And it requires a certain level of discipline to not be, and that's what those in power rely on, especially from people of color. They know that we are all connected, that we all internalize in our bodies and in our blood the suffering of others, especially the suffering of those that look like us, right? And so that's why the snuff films we see all the time of people being brutalized and terrorized and mistreated. This is modern snuff to get you emotionally distracted about what is to come and come quickly. It is to get you emotionally, politically, spiritually, culturally, socially misdirected and guided to guide that freaking wave of energy you always produce with no return, to direct that into another scenario or situation where there is no return on the investment of energy that you put into this place. I'm trying to tell you, I'm preaching to you right now. Take this wave of enthusiasm, this wave of anger, rage, indignation that you experience, and those things are just. But how are you directing that? How are you channeling it? How are you funneling it? How are you using it to craft, create, and shape what you want to see for you and the rest of the world? And I am trying to tell you, mass demonstrations is not going to do it. You are being corralled. Your energy, your essence, and your power is being corralled again to be exploited by someone else. I'm just trying to tell you what it is. And I'm trying to tell you that these chants that we do in demonstrations, right? These spells that we cast in groups of thousands in demonstrations. What are we saying? What are we giving life to? What are we speaking into existence collectively? I remember the very, very beginning, weeks into the pandemic, right? No. It was before the pandemic when, what was his name? Michael Brown was killed by the police. What, 2 years? 2 years before, maybe a year and a half before pandemic, when Michael Brown was killed, and everybody was repeating the chant. Everybody all over the planet was repeating the chant of this man's last words, this man's dying words. I can't breathe. I remember going to a demonstration. And in this demonstration, I remember the women that led the demonstration called on everybody that was participating to dress in all white. There were thousands, I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the streets of Santa Barbara dressed in all white. And that in and of itself was powerful. Thousands of people of all races dressed in all white to participate in this demonstration that was led by 4 Black women. And when we got to a place in the march, the women required that everybody in the demonstration get on their knees. And when everybody got on their knees, what an opportunity to cast a spell of certainty that would reverberate out into the universe. And when these thousands upon thousands of people got on their knees in the streets of Santa Barbara, in all white, led by 4 Black women, the spell that they cast, just like many around the country, being led to bullshit. The chant that the way they chose to use the power of their ashe was to have everybody chant on their knees, dressed in all white. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. And I remember like yesterday that when I started studying about the Pluto returns, what it meant from an African-centered perspective, from a Yoruba perspective, who the players were, Pluto as Oya, Saturn, Capricorn as Babuluaye, the bringer of plague. Pluto, Oya, she who governs the breath. And a year later, we are confronted with global pandemic. Now, you may think, oh, that's woo-woo, that's a stretch. But I'm just trying to tell you, I'm trying to elicit something to you. That when these global demonstrations happen, some issue, something that happens that sets an entire movement off, And the intention in the beginning is righteous. The rage and the indignation is righteous. But when those who are in positions of power, those who are in bed with those who wield power, lead those waves of indignation and rage to something like, I can't breathe, they recognize, even if we do not, that this is energy that can be corralled. This is palpable, transformative energy and essence that can be corralled to their favor, you see. So I want us to be mindful about where we give our life force, about where we give our ashe, about where we spend our money, our currency in these periods, because this transition into the Aquarian age, which we are fully in, baby, we are fully in it, are going to be radical, wonderfully, amazingly, magically radical, and at the same time, scarily, painfully, brutally radical. And where are we giving our energy in this seesaw, in this back and forth that we are maneuvering as we shift into the new age? What are we creating every moment? What are we doing? What are we creating? Are we really casting a spell of certainty on the planet that they can then take their own power by the reins and execute magic? Or do we see ourselves as superheroes here to save the world? And it's only going to be the talented 10th that does it. It's only going to be the few that are called. That's not it. That's not the way forward. There ain't no talented 10th. There ain't no few who are called. You understand? We are one. Our destiny is linked. When one suffers, the whole suffers. You understand? And so, what are we creating? What are we creating? When we want to see an end to the suffering, do we repeat from our mouth the narrative of the suffering? We can't, man. We've done that. We know better now. Now we got too much information, historical, cultural, traditional information that proves that, partnered with scientific, peer-reviewed, researched information that validates what the ancients have always known. If you cannot speak spells of certainty, wonder that all can be transformed, that all can be healed, keep your mouth closed. Don't talk. That's all we need. Every time our mouth flies open, every time the great spirit of the all channels through us and we open our mouths and speak the truth that is the essence of our heart, it better be certainty. It better be certainty. It better be ours. It better be that we have already won. It better be that the future is now, right now. That's what it better be. That's what it better be. No matter what your work is, no matter what your lane is, whether it's spiritual, whether it's political, whether it's social, psychological, it better be wildly positive. It better be, oh my God, child. Hold on, let me take a note, child. It better be wildly positive. Oh, if you cannot, if even if you don't believe it, even if you don't believe it, say it anyway. The future is now. The future is ours. The future that we see in our mind's eye exists right now. We live in a world of justice, peace, sovereignty, and whole healing right now. That spirit, that God, that the heavens, that the universe are conspiring to make it so. And I, as a conduit of spirit, am wielding all the power of the universe to ensure with certainty that it is so. That I, every time I speak, am involved in a global conspiracy to change the world, to become that which she intended, an Eden beyond what we can ever envision, of happiness and ecstasy and joy and love and plenty, where she is the center, where she is adored, where she is loved and honored for who she is as the creator of all things. I am her daughter. I am the conduit which descends from a line unbroken of her. As a child of the mother, I am her. Therefore, all the power of creation that she possesses, I too possess. This is the confidence that I go into the world with, knowing, not believing, not having faith, knowing that the world is mine to create, that the future is mine to create if I take hold of it with all the certainty of the universe, with all the certainty that was in the beginning when she sang and danced everything into existence. She didn't need to see it for it to be. She didn't need to see it for it to be. As males, I am my mother's son. I am a descendant of the one. I am the evidence that she is the creator of all things. Yes, you are. You are the evidence that she could turn in on herself and create a companion for her daughter. For those of you who exist along within the poles, you understand? Those who are non-gendered, those who are two-spirit, those who are five-spirited people, those who lie along the line between the poles of the yin and yang. You too are the children of the one, of the she, of the great primordial black that existed before anything did. This is where your power lies. This is where your power lies. Our power lies in our relationship to her. Our power lies in our relationship to the one, not in contention among each other. That's not where power comes from, baby. Not true power. That ain't where it comes from. As a matter of fact, it is what's been used, your separation. It is what's been used, your labels. It is what's been used to extract your power. It is. Your power only comes from her. It only comes from the she, the one that is the beginning and the end and everything in between. She who turned in on herself to create man out of her own body and her own bone and her own blood. I'm just trying to tell you what it is. These dissensions, these borders, these boundaries, these fictitious separations that we so hold on to, that we define our entire existence by, will never win us the future that every single one of us claim we want to see. Every single one of us claims we want sovereignty. Every single one of us claims we want peace and happiness and a right to exist on our own terms. Each one of us claims we want self-determination. But we would actively, whether out of our mouth, whether in our ideologies, or whether in our behavior, would deny it to others. And she ain't having it. She's like, you sorry motherfuckers. I give y'all chance after chance after chance. But y'all are all me. Every single one of you, as defunct, as fucked up, as far away from the memory of who you are, you are still me. And all your flaws and all your fucked upness don't mean I won't need to make plant food out of your ass. But you exist because I say so. That's why. You exist because I say so. You exist because I say so. That's it. Your breath is a gift that I bestowed on you before you were even a thought. In Chinese medicine, there is this poetic saying about the significance of the kidneys, right? It says that your kidneys existed before your parents ever met. It's talking about the spirit of the kidneys, the power of the kidneys. The kidneys, or the root chakra, is the I am. It is the I am. And so Chinese medicine says that your kidneys existed before your parents ever met. You understand? Why? Because their kidneys existed before their parents ever met. Right? We are she, all of us. I know y'all hate it because you hold on so tight to your differences and to your labels. And I welcome differences. But as a part of the whole, I welcome uniqueness as a part of the whole. Think about it like this. You have this wonderful body, okay? And in the trunk, you have this beautiful orchestra of organs that are always working on your behalf without you having to do nothing. You feel me? You've got the heart, you've got the spleen, you've got the heart, which is your fire element. You've got the spleen, which is your earth element. You've got your lungs, which is your metal element. You've got your kidneys, which is your water element. You've got your liver, which is your wood element. And they work in this beautiful concert to make sure that you are the best possible you that you can be in any given moment. And when that concert receives information that is not in concert with the others, then you have disharmony or imbalance. When you have liver enzymes trying to do the work of the spleen, or trying to be in the spleen space, or trying to overact on the spleen, which is a real diagnosis, by the way, liver overacting on the spleen, right? When you have the liver overacting on the spleen, invading territory that's not its, this is where disharmony resides. The liver ain't got no business trying to do what the spleen do, or impacting its will on the liver, or burning its fire so hot that it harasses the heart. You understand? We all have a place that is ours to be in. We all have a unique role to play in the health of the whole. We do. We do. I know. I can already hear the discussion, but I am trying to tell you what it is, baby. I am trying to tell you that the mother is on a move, and we only have two choices: to fulfill our destiny or to betray it, to listen, to execute the will of the mother, or to doom our offspring to the suffering of a malignant father. That's it. And when I say a malignant father, I don't want none of you men to get your panties in a wad. I am talking about the artificial male white mother that has placed itself as the governor of the world that we currently reside in. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about patriarchy. I am talking about white supremacy, white nationalism. I am talking about the global what do you call it? The global courtocracy or whatever new fancy names y'all get to give to old ass imperialism. I'm talking about that. I'm talking about the age dominated by emperors, kings, monarchs, corporate executives, and shit, billionaires and shit. That's what I'm talking about. That male father that dominates the planet. That's all we got. And we cannot do it while in our daily action denying sovereignty to others. That don't mean, and I want y'all to hear me, because just like the spleen is in her lane and the heart is in his lane and the lungs is in her lane and got her very specific chores and tasks, and the kidneys got their own specific chores and tasks, and the liver got their own specific chores and tasks. And when they do their task, when they fulfill their peculiar assignment to their best, the whole group is in harmony and in beautiful concert. You understand? We have to do the same. We cannot impose our will, our beliefs on shit on others. And when they don't comply to what we think is the best based on our antiquated bullshit and ass ideas, created under oppression, that when others don't comply to what the fuck we say, then, well, fuck you guys, I ain't got nothing to do with y'all. That ain't how it is. That ain't how it is. And so that's all I want to say about that. That's all I want to say about that. That this, I just want to plead with you. I want to implore you. I want to beg you to keep everything that comes out of your mouth, every ounce of ashe that you spend in the world, every spell that you cast when you open your mouth, to be one of certain victory and harmonious future with the inhabitants of the planet, sovereignty for all that incarnate, peace as the foundation for life on earth, to create every day a space where the goddess is proud to reign. Please do that. We are in such an extraordinary, I cannot, every time I open my mouth, man, I just get this sense that people think I'm crazy, or I just get this sense. And I am trying in the plainest language possible. I'm not trying to be super esoteric. I ain't trying to talk over nobody's head. I'm trying to make this shit as plain as I possibly can, so that even a 3-year-old can understand that this next year and 8 months are ours for the taking. And what we do in this year and 8 months can change everything. I promise, I swear it. It can change everything. It can. But we have to be deliberate, conscious creators of the future. We don't have an excuse. We know everything. If we don't know something, we can find it in 2 seconds. We know everything. We have every access to every ounce of pivotal information that we need to have it. Our ancestors are screaming from beyond the graves, motherfuckers. Y'all don't have no excuse. Set this shit off already. Make this shit fucking pop already. The groundwork has been done, man. The blood has been shed. Listen, the life has been lost. In the past, when we did not know, when we did not have access to information, we were unconscious creators of the past, speaking our woes every day, speaking our lament every day. Unconscious creators of the past. We do of the future every day, every time we open our mouths. What are you speaking? What is that leading your body to do in the world? What is your behavior? Your ideas What you speak and your behavior, are they in alignment or do they contradict each other? Are all of your actions guided by your heart, baby? Are they? Are you, every time you draw the arrow of intention, looking at a mark, are you drawing that arrow led from your heart or led from what the fuck you think you know? I'm just trying to tell y'all, baby. The world is ours to take. It is ours to take on her behalf. Everything else is a lie. What did my card say? I have this wonderful book, The Medicine Woman Guidebook to Inner Work. I forget which card it is. But she says, there's a quote that I love in this, many, many quotes. But she says, speak of a world, child, what is this card? She said, speak only of a world transformed. Speak of a world only being transformed. Teach the young people who have come to repair the damage of their past, of their ancestors' past. Give them the tools and the vision and the hope to make sure this world comes into fruition. You will be reborn. Listen, you will be reborn in a world of your creation. You will be reborn through your offspring in a world of your creation. What are you creating? What is the legacy that you are leaving your offspring? Whether you have babies or not, everybody's babies is our babies. What is the world that we are leaving as a legacy? What are the blueprints that we leave in time so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel every goddamn generation? You understand? Speak only of a world worth fighting for. Speak only of a world worth creating. What she say in this book? She said, anything less than wondrous. She said, when you speak, be mindful of how you speak, because anything less than wondrous is a lie. Anything less than wondrous is a lie. This is the world we have to create. This is the vision that we have to create. What is wondrous to you? What does the future look like to you? What does an earth healed look like to you? What does a human population where suffering does not even exist in their memory, what does that look like to you? What does it look like to you for death to be embraced as a rebecoming, a reunion to the mother to whom gives us life, and we return to her, knowing that it is not an end, that we are returned to the fold again and again. Baby, what does the world look like? And focus on that. Because again, anything less than wondrous, anything spoken out of your mouth less than wondrous is a lie to be rejected. You understand? Now that I'm done preaching, you feel me? I do have a word. I may or may not do another live tomorrow before I get on the road. I may or may not do lives as I'm driving across the country. I will leave it up to spirit to intervene in that way. But for right now, after sitting here all day and doing what I needed to do to speak, with clarity about this new period coming. What intentions are we setting? What moves are we making? What prayers are we saying? For those of you who have not participated in any of the temple services, there is this concept that I've been talking, word conspiracy. I was moved one day because everybody's got some conspiracy theory, whatever dominates the terrain. Everybody got one. You feel me? And it causes us to go into these deep ass wormholes into bullshit that don't serve us at the end of the day, right? And what the other thing that it does is again attempt to convince us that we have no power, that there's something bigger than us, dominating our lives and dominating everything, and we can't win because the conspiracies are so old and so deep. You feel me? So I was like, okay, well, what is? I do this a lot. I'm always going into finding the etymology of any. The word emerged. The word conspiracy, and every culture has a version of this, by the way. Every language, every culture has a version of this. Conspiracy, in its etymological foundation, its meaning is to breathe together to ensure a certain result. That's what it means. The scenarios used to explain what this is, i.e., breathing together through instruments to create music. This word means to breathe together to ensure a certain, not possible, result, to ensure a certain result. That's what the word conspiracy means. So, what is the conspiracy that we world changers are creating? What are we breathing together to ensure a certain result? What are the prayers, affirmations, meditations, chant spells that we are casting together in unison to ensure a certain result? Are we creating spiritual pollution when we open our mouths? Because that's what I talked about last week too. The question of this concept called the miasm, a spiritual pollution that plagues mankind when mouths are open in despair, pain, grief, and distress. Child, y'all ain't walking with me. You feel me? Y'all ain't walking with me. You understand? Are you opening your mouth and contributing to spiritual pollution that plagues humanity? Or are you breathing that we say that we want to see? That's it. That's all. Anyway, so what I wanted to do tonight is begin, even if it's just for a few minutes, because I'm not going to make this too long. But I had been leading a book club for a long time. And the book club, the first book of the book club was The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth, written by Barbara Moore, illustrated by Monica Zhu. And within the context of leading these book club sessions for months, anything from Mama Zogbe. And finally, I have made it my mission to do that. So the book that I will be reading, and I'll probably do it separate, but I did want to read just a couple of things from here, but I will be doing an official read of the Sibyls, the first prophetesses of Mami Wata, the theft of African prophecy by the Catholic Church by Mama Zogbe. So this is the next book that I am going to be reading officially as a part of the process that I stay engaged in. You feel me? Now, tonight, I'm just going to read some excerpts because I haven't even read the whole book. So when I read it to you guys, it'll be us reading it together for the first time. But when I got the book a couple of weeks ago, I just started flipping through, to see if something stood out to me. You feel me? And baby, this is a wormhole worth diving into. So I'm going to read just a little bit, like maybe 5-10 minutes. So walk with me if you dare to. I know it's late on the East Coast, but when I come back to read this book, I will start from the beginning and I will do it just like I did The Great Cosmic Mother, chapter, headings, so that you can keep up and go back, if need be. And I want to take a minute. I have a bad habit of not doing this, but I know I should, but I'm by myself. I want to shout out my sister, in spirit and in revolutionary work. In Koyo, in Koyo, you understand? I want to shout her out, her and Brother Amin, for the exceptional work that they do on educating African young people and adults, for that matter. I want to shout out Sister Kalada. Thank you. I see all of y'all messages. I appreciate it so much. I haven't but to master the art of like multitasking when I'm on here, but when I catch a word, it's difficult for me. I'm channeling, in case you didn't know. You understand? And so it's difficult for me to like stop and like check in. But every few minutes, I'll be a little bit more disciplined about like pausing and checking in with the comments. I see all of your comments. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I know it's late where y'all at, but thank you so much for tuning in, because it's a word that needed to be said on this day. Okay. So again, for those who may just be tuning in, I am just going to read a few little excerpts from the Sibyls, the First Prophetesses of Mami Wata, and the Theft of African Prophecy by the Catholic Church by Mama Zope. So the very first page, baby, the very first page, there ain't even no contents. Right out the gate, okay? She says, the definition for the word Vatican means divining serpent, derived from vatas, vatis, which means diviner, and can, can, which means serpent. Vatican City and St. Peter's Basilica were built on the ancient pagan site called in Latin Vaticanus Mons or Vaticanus Coli, which means hill or mountain of prophecy. The Hebrew definition, vatic, or vadis, or vates, a seer, a prophet, a soothsayer, diviner, or divination. Soothsayer means to act covertly, to use hidden arts, i.e., magic, to practice sorceries and mysteries. Diviner means witchcraft, tells fortune, fortune teller, bewitch, to consult with the spirit of the dead, or to practice magic. That's the first page. Okay. Now I'll do some storytelling a little later, but right now we're just gonna read. So the next page is from the Nile to the Libyan Sea, and there's a map here, and the map says Monsters Geographica 1540 edition map, showing the real ancient Babylon located in southern Egypt. Babylon in Egypt has now been removed from modern maps. Munster, a linguist and mathematician who initially taught Hebrew in Heidelberg, is generally regarded as one of the three most important map makers of the 16th century. Y'all ain't heard what I just said. They deliberately disappeared. It's so weird looking at this mirror form, I guess. But they deliberately disappeared Babylon's ancient origins in Egypt. Okay. And then she says, Justin tells the Greeks, this is a quote, by the way, Justin tells the Greeks that they may find the true religion in the ancient Babylonian Sibyl, who come to Kuma and there gave her oracles, which Plato admired as divine. Clemens Romanus also quotes the Sibyls in his epistle to the Corinthians. They are also quoted by Theophilus, Anticinus, Athenagoras, Firminius, Lactanius, Erbesius, and St. Augustine, end quote. This is also a quote. It is not surprising. This is a picture of an African Sibyl. And the quote underneath. It is not surprising that the Sicilian terracottas, which we have seen embrace so large a field of Oriental, East African, Egyptian, Greek, and Roman mythology, should also contain illustrations of auricular beings and virgin, pagan prophetesses who played an important part in the rise of Christianity, whose books were largely used by the ancient fathers of the church against the pagans, and whose prophecies did not fall before the light of a new religion for nearly 4 centuries after the advent of Jesus. End quote. All right. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of the foreword, and then I'm just going to read a couple of the quotes that I found very interesting. Very interesting as I just thumbed through the book when I first got it. So this is part from the foreword. Thinking outside the Western patriarchal box. The idea that African religious traditions, ritual practices, social customs, divine prophecy, and fundamental beliefs once dominated both the secular and non-secular world in ancient times seems hard to imagine. Even more, the notion that African women, the oldest human beings on the planet, laid the theological foundation for Judaism, Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam under the auspices of Black matriarchs seems even more incredible. Considering the current status of African women around the world, one can hardly be convinced that her matriarchal presence and the enormous influence she wielded in the ancient world had far exceeded the limited physical, cultural, geographical, and political designations of which Africa and her religions are confined today. One could hardly imagine, too, that African religions had reached very high levels of theological and ritual development, and that they were the original home of the world's first great oracles, prophetesses, and prophets. The absence of African women in world history as major players, as opposed to exceptions to the norm, are mere appendages of great men, has been problematic and disturbing at best. For the first time, her story is being unearthed, revealed, and told. The first prophetesses of the world. The first prophets of Mami Wata were African women. They were called the Sibyls, meaning they that were Mami Wata. They that were Mami Wata priestesses and priests of the Oanes. The more advanced of this matriarchal divine order are known as Emergencies. I don't know if I'm torturing that that pronunciation. Emergencies in West Africa today. They can call up the dead and even the souls of the living. They were the ancient oracle used in ancient Greece, Rome, and Babylon. Their prophecies are the oldest in the world. It is through the divine blood of these. Listen to what I'm saying. Okay? Y'all gonna learn. And not in some detached ass esoteric way. Y'all gonna learn. Shit. Let me mark this real quick. Emergency. Okay, thank you, Carlotta. They were the ancient oracle used in ancient Greece, Rome, and Babylon. Their prophecies are the oldest in the world. It is through the divine blood of these Sibyl priestesses that the patriarchal kingships of the pharaohs, the Hebrew prophets, and the Chaldean priests were born. The great Sibyls, divine oracles of the ancestors and God. Webster's dictionary defines a Sibyl as a female prophet, or a woman able to utter the oracles and prophecies of God, or a woman who can foretell the future. Conversely, under the bitter Hebrew patriarchs, the Sibyls are condemned in the Bible as Behaleth Ob, meaning evil serpent spirit or mistress of the python. Sibyl, black doves. These are all, when I pause like that, it's like a new title heading. Sibyl, black doves, original Holy Spirit. Oh, universally known as the black doves. The Sibyls referred The Sibyls referred to themselves as the Sisters of Isis and sometimes prophetesses of the Black Diana. The doves symbolize the sacred soul or Holy Spirit, an Afro-mystical symbol later adopted by the Christians. It was the Sibyls matriarchal groups who settled at Asia Minor, today's ancient Turkey, and installed Mami Wata's worship more than 2,500 years before the Doric, Greek, or the Turk invasions. Mami, whom they knew as Laocoon with her serpents, was known as the manifestation of the divine Logos, with holy temples scattered all throughout the Asian Minor, Cushitic, Mitanni Empire, and the Minoan and Mycenae or Aegean Islands. Archaeological pottery shards date the Black descendants of the Libyan Garamantes, present-day Ewe, Alades, and Ga-Adangbe, and other African clans who had settled into ancient Babylon and elsewhere before the flood, to have arrived in Manoa as early as 4000 BCE. Hailed as one of the seven wonders of the world, these sacred temples were maintained by the Sibyls and a contingent of Vestal or virgin priestesses and eunuchs. Next title, Vatican, original sacerdotal seat of the Sibyls. Africans, Black Buddhists, Umbrians, and Black Etruscans, etc., erected civilizations in what is now Italy, thousands of years before the Anglo-Romans arrived. What is now called the seat of the Vatican in Italy was originally the sacerdotal seat of the ancient Black Sibyls. As the first established sacerdotal African matriarchs, the Sibyls' culture and religious impact was arguably the most profound on ancient civilization than modern history has ever revealed or cared to admit. From Mesopotamia to Libya to Kemet and Egypt, also known as Mizraim, Ionia, Manoa, Peloponnese, Turkey, and Macedonia, Greece, and later Rome. The Sibyls were the primary divine Vatican and absolute moral authority. For centuries, the Grecian islands at Delos, Dodona, Delphi, and the Temple of Mami in ancient Libya were the ecclesiastical and moral hub of religious, social, and international political activity. It was under the theocratic governance of the Sibyls as queen mothers that African matriarchal culture reached its golden age of achievement in medicine, religion, astronomy, philosophy, law, architecture, music, art, and social sophistication. Sibyls, heal sick, raise dead long before Christ. As the sole spiritual authority in the ancient world, the Sibyls were famous for uttering warnings and admonitions to the villages, cities, and ancient kingdoms, including to their leaders, prophesying their doom or fulfilling their hopes in restoring lost glory. They'd right moral wrongs and punish offenders of the divine law. Punish offenders of the divine law. Centuries before Christ, they were known to heal the sick, restore dignity and strength to the weak, and sight to the blind. They were famous for curing lameness, epileptics, deaf, mutes, and lepers. They were said to cast out demons and even to raise up the dead. This last reference is probably meant to call up and materialize the spirit of a dead person. For example, a Sibyl named Hierophile, residing in Cumaean, Rome, was famed for calling up the spirit of the apostle Samuel from the dead. Sibyls, divine oracle basis for the Western Bible. However, the Sibyls' most significant contributions were their famous oracles containing the divine prophecies that they would utter in transpossession. These prophecies would be carefully written down by their assistants and compiled into books. These prophetic proses were the basis for Greek and Roman tragedies and plays. These prophetic books were later collected by the Roman authorities and soon became the sole and undisputed precursor to the Western Christian Bible, and would later lay the ecclesiastical foundation of Western civilization itself. Over the millenniums, other Sibyl prophecies, oracles, and revelations were systematically retrieved and purchased. Retrieved and purchased, stolen, or haphazardly collected by various means, all throughout the ancient world where their temples existed. It was these books that would later be plagiarized, revised, or altered, and compiled into one holy book known as the Sibylline Oracles. They would later become the center of the bitter doctrinal or heresy wars between the warring Levitical Jews and the emerging Roman Vatican authority. As the African matriarchal power began to decline and her colonies taken over by foreign conquerors, it was the thrones and sacerdotal power and prophecies of the Sibyls that were stolen from them by the emerging Roman Church. Their religions were later labeled as pagan or heathen under a now racialist Roman authority. The emerging Roman Church, in their ignorance and ambition, acquired and doctored the Levite Jews' corrupted version of the Sibyl prophecies until one could hardly distinguish one forgery from another. Some of the prophetic books were used by the Vatican to compile what is known today as the Judeo-Christian Bible, crediting their authorship to conspicuous Roman or other male prophets. Those books for which was hard to conceal their African matriarchal origins were simply destroyed or relegated to heresy. The gender of God, originally female. The gender of God was later changed from female to masculine. Originally, within the prophetic verse, it is claimed that the Sibyls made praises to Mommy or Our Lady and proclaimed that she was greater than any god in the world. Roman Senator Cicero, the orator, writes that the last 3 books of the Sibyl Hierophile were deliberately burned in a fire by the Roman governor Stilicon the tyrant. Stilicon was eternally hated by all of Rome for his sacrilegious act, which prompted a universal reaction from poets, scholars, musicians alike. So worshipped was this Sibyl of Cumaea that she was immortalized by all of Rome in one of her appellations, Europa, from which the word Europe is allegedly named. Sibyl groups, original persecuted ones. It was this African traditional religionist groups and not the so-called Christians who were the actual ones persecuted and finally enslaved. It was the Sibyl's style of prophecy and magic that would later be imitated by a militant faction from these patriarchal Levitical groups whom, envious of her global positioning, rebelled the divine matriarchal orders and seized their temples and overthrew their priestesshoods. In their jealousy, hatred, and rebellion of her divine authority, the Levitical Jews elevated their original minor deity, Jehovah, as an insult to her. Together, Jehovah and his patriarchal clan usurped her sacerdotal and secular power, and from that moment on, they have worn it as their own. Millions of her people were murdered or enslaved, and millions scattered to the 4 winds all across the world. The historical evidence shows that it was these groups and not the Christians who were the actual ones persecuted and finally enslaved. The New Testament is actually a historical chronicle of the final destruction of all the remnants of the matriarchal authority. Books that were politically and not divinely inspired, which is why the Levitical Jews, enemies of the Roman Church, refused to recognize them as authentic. Sibyl traditions live on in West Africa. The history of the Sibyls is not entirely dead. In West Africa, there lives a matriarchal order of women who call up the dead. Many lineages of these women were also sold into slavery in America. Many Black women are born not knowing that their suffering stems from their disconnection with their ancient rights and spiritual duty to become the work of their ancient mothers, to continue the work of their ancient mothers. The suppression of the ancient history of the African matriarchs and their contributions to the world, religion, magic, spirituality, and prophecy is one of the greatest cover-ups and divine tragedies in human history. This author remains convinced that until this history is restored and African women are accorded their rightful place in the world, there will probably never be any peace on earth. Okay, so that is the introduction. I'm sure I'll read it again when I read the book, straight through. But let me just leave you with a couple of quotes since we're 20 minutes in. And then I'm going to leave y'all alone and get my life together for this journey I'm about to make across the country. You feel me? Anyway, so this is a quote. Now, this is something else. I might read this whole little section. Okay, let's see. This comes from page 95, and the heading says Day of Doom. I want y'all to walk with me slow through this. Please have your ears open. Day of Doom, final prophecy for Rome. In the end, none of Rome's heroic efforts could stave off the inevitable fate of its impending destruction. In a desperate attempt to prevent the inevitable, the papal imperials searched desperately for the unfulfilled prophecies of the Sibyls concerning Rome's final fate. Scrambling aimlessly through the Sibylline oracles, which had by now undergone a total masculinization and Christianization of God, they tripped and stumbled upon a few verses revealing that the die had already been cast. The divine African mother, who now delighted in prophesying their destruction, in her final words had only this to say, quote, "Listen. Thrice 300 years having run their course of fulfillment, Rome, by the strife her people shall perish. Rome is doomed to perish, and that indeed by the judgment of God, because it held her name in hatred. And being the enemy of righteousness, it destroyed the people who kept the truth. There shall come to thee sometime from above a heavenly stroke deserved, O haughty Rome, O haughty Rome, and thou shalt be the first to bend thy neck and be raised to the ground, and thee shall fire destructive utterly, and thee shall fire destructive utterly consume, cast down upon thy pavements, and thy wealth shall perish, and wolves and foxes dwell in thy foundations, and then shalt thou be wholly desolate, as if not born." Baby. Okay. The final fall and dispersion. In the years following, specifically between 150 CE and 475 CE, Rome's population had increased, burdened by heavy bureaucracy, and their patricians became lazy, their bellies filled with the spoils of their colonial wealth. Its citizens were further weakened by numerous civil wars and devastating plagues. Rome was primed for the barbarian Germanic invasions, Huns and Gauls from the north, to which they eventually succumbed. The official cause of the young empire's collapse was just simply an overburdened bureaucracy, moral decay, and political corruption. However, beneath the substratum lies the story of the Sibyls and the African gods and the destiny of the forgotten people. What became of the Sibyls? In a final effort to blot out all traces of the ancient matriarchs and later the patriarchs' undeniable presence and influence in ancient world, one of the most egregious historical lies disseminated by the imperial church in Rome and continued unchallenged by present day Western historians is their unproved claim that all of the descendants of the ancient Black Egyptian, Phrygians, Pelasgians, Phoenicians, Canaanites, and Syrians, including their culture, religion, and their languages, are now completely extinct. Western historians erroneously assert that these major African clans left no remote traces of themselves, neither in Africa nor anywhere else in the world. These holy papal fathers further designated the above at the okay, so I won't go into that. Okay, and then the last quote I'm gonna leave y'all with. And this is a prophecy by the Sibyl of Cumea. And every land shall be filled up with thee, Africans, and every sea, and everyone shall be offended with thy customs. Okay. Okay. So anyway, this is the undertaking of the next period. So it's going to be this book, and I may just make this our live while I'm on the road trip. Just read it straight through while I'm on the road or whatever. But yeah, so that's all I have to say. I am going to be making a call. It's 8:28 Pacific Standard Time right now. I want you to be watchful. I want you to share it. I want you guys to be engaged in a conspiracy that I am going to initiate on behalf of my mother and her healing, not just her physical healing based on her diagnosis, but her whole healing. That's what I'm going to be calling on y'all for. So look for that. I'm going to basically just do a Facebook event and send it out as a private event. And then I am going to include in that event her full name at birth, her date of birth, in the city where she lives. And on this new moon, which is Monday, February 20th, this is a big day. It is the anniversary of Pluto's entering into the America's first Pluto return. Monday will be a year since Pluto entered into America's first return. So I really want to call on you guys, everybody that I've ever known, everybody that I've ever had a relationship with, everybody that I know, to call my mother's name on Monday, to call my mother's name in a total transformation in her whole life. That's what I'm going to be calling on. That's what I'm going to be calling on. You understand? And yes, thank you so much, sis. And so that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm going to create that event, and let's see what kind of magic we can call into my mother's space, into her home, into her heart, into her life. Yes, that's gonna be what I'm requesting from all of you. So look forward to that. I want to just say I love and cherish you all. I mean that with like every fiber of my being. I mean it. And I look forward to the future that we are creating together. Peace. Yes, 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 yes.